Good day, our wonderful people. Today we are here again on Africa Perspective. This is where we see things through the eyes of Africans. As Africans, we need to see the world from our own eyes, interpret the world from our own angle, so that the world understands us how we want them to understand us. That is Africa Perspective. I remain Nduka Odo. Still with me is
Godson Achubu.
all right, Gosnachubu. You're welcome, and thank you
Thank you.
for sharing this platform with me today.
Thank you very much. I'm
Yes.
delighted to be here with you.
Okay. Yes, it's we bring you another interesting topic today. Are you a youth? Are you a young Nigerian? A young African? Are you still within the continent? Have you left? Have you Japa? That's the term today. Because the term Japa just got into the dictionary, English dictionary, as a term that signifies one thing: running away from your country. So I'm asking you, are you still within your country as an African? That's an interesting question. And that's what we have here today: the Japa syndrome, its impact in our country and our continent. So we want to start with questions. What is Japa syndrome? What is it all about?
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's the concept of forced immigration out of your community in search of greener pastures. I understand that thing is a Yoruba word.
Yes.
You know, I heard that in Yoruba's Ja means to run, and Pa means to run intensively when there's intensity. So it's a way of saying where people are running away from their land. So we're about to say the person is Japa and all that. And so basically that's what it is all about. You know, people leaving their own abode to look for greener pastures in different land, in a different land.
Yeah, thank you so much. The idea that, it has become a debate. People are trying to say, why should our young people leave? That's as if it's something that is new. The idea of people running away, just like you explained, Japan. The idea of people running away out of the country, out of the continent, no matter the impact of the method they use, because we are going to discuss in details the way the method through some persons leave the continent, leave the country, is even worse than the situation they are in. It's something crazy to think that someone is trekking to Europe.
Yeah.
And this is what Nigerians do. This is what Africans do. They trek across the Sahara Desert to go to Europe. Some go through different routes to go to the US. So we're going to look at proper understanding and ask ourselves, are they doing something wrong? Is this generation the first generation that started the idea of running away from the continent? I mean, the Gen Zs, the millennials, are they the starters? Are they the beginner of this idea that someone wakes up and says, no, I'm no longer interested in staying around. Whatever it costs, I must leave. So we're going to look at the historical background to the idea of this exodus. Then we talk about what are these key factors, the key push factors, the things that push people away. Because if someone is running, something must be chasing the person. Correct. So what are these things that are chasing our young ones out of the continent? You know, it becomes interesting because this time, it looks like two people, only one group of persons are not leaving the continent, or two group of persons. Those who cannot afford it, and those who are so comfortable that they don't need to move. So we're going to look at these key factors that actually push people away.
Yeah.
Then we'll look at the key pull factors. What are these kind of systems they put down over there in the countries that attract our people? What are these things they put down in their system to make sure that the most valuable assets we have are running away to their land?
Yes.
So we need to understand that, and then we start tracing it down. If we put the same system, our young people going to stay back? That's like the question that we need to ask ourselves. If we have the same system they have over there, do we still need to run? So we're also going to look at common destinations. I think this is very easy to understand. Where are these places that people run to? So, and then related to factors, what are these things that people usually put down in their countries to attract our people?
Yeah.
And then we look at how do our people, Japa, which system, which method do we use? When the young person say, I want to run away from my country, is he going to trek? Is he going to fly, run, use bus? What's he going over there to do? To work or study or what? We're going to look at all these methods.
That's correct.
Then after that, we then ask ourselves, after all is said, what is this impact? Are we benefiting? Is the country benefiting from the people that are leaving, or is the country losing from the fact that its brightest minds are leaving the country? So we need to look at this also and understand properly what all these are. And then we ask ourselves the final question. Should the young people leave or should they stay? I mean, this is our country, this is our continent. Should we leave because the situation is unbearable?
Yes.
Or should we stay and fight back? What's the best thing we need to do? So we're going to come back to all these, take it one after the other.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, thank you for being there with us. For the fact that you are still watching this video means that you have not jackpot from our video. So, and whether you're within the country or outside the country, we are trying to actually see this idea of Japa, leaving the continent, leaving the country. We are trying to see, is it our generation that started it? Are we the first set of people that started moving out of the continent, out of the country in large numbers?
Yeah, I don't really think so. I think there's a historical basis to see that throughout history, people used to move. You know, for example, the children of Israel, you know, they left where they were. You know, the sons of Jacob, and then went over to Egypt. It's a kind of Japa. Because of the circumstances where they were, and there was, you know, Egypt was flourishing and all of that because of the wisdom that God had given to Joseph. So there was enough food and all of that. So when they came, they bought food, and eventually they came back again, and ultimately they settled there. And that's where the Jewish nation, the Israeli nation, was formed. You know, from there, all the tribes developed. Eventually, Moses had to bring them back. So all through history, there's nothing unique about that. There's nothing special about that. People tend to leave when their own homeland, what we describe as the push factors. Maybe they're fleeing persecution, maybe they are fleeing economic difficulties and challenges, maybe there's famine or some kind of, you know, limited opportunities, no job, low pay, or violence, you know, insecurity, maybe there's war and all of that. People tend to move, and because Africa more or less have not been able to get its act together since after the end of colonialism, you know. So comparatively, you will see that there are better opportunities in other spheres, in other climes outside of Africa. So our African youths tend to look at it and say, what am I doing here? I have to leave. It happened also with the Chinese. There's a very large Chinese diaspora before the Cultural Revolution. And then they got their ass together, and then people started coming back. So practically everywhere, even in Enugu here, they used to have a way they call Chinatown. But the Chinese were living
Living
there in
there.
those days, in large
So what it
numbers.
means that the economy got better, and then they had to leave.
Yes, when everybody has a home,
Mm.
just like the Jews also had to leave.
Mm.
So even if you want to stay,
Mm.
you want to be happy that you have a home that is prosperous and is safe and all of that, and you can come down to if you wish to.
Mm.
Nobody wants his own place to be in a state of disrepute.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
The
I.
Indians did that too.
Mm.
Everybody
Mm.
leaves when there's hardship at home, and then when things get better,
Mm. I
they
see the
start coming back.
angle because I was paying attention to there's something I was reading, a book I was reading, historical book. Then I just realized that something happened. Europe is what we call the white people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Australia is now made up of Europeans.
Yes,
North and South America has large populations of Europeans.
yes,
Even Southern Africa has good populations of Europeans.
yes,
These are people that left their country.
yes,
They left their country for whatever reason. They moved over to other continents.
yes,
Not only did they move over to other continents, they became leaders in those continents.
yes,
Now, whenever you think about Australia, the first thing that comes to your mind is a white man.
yes,
But these are people that jackpot from Europe
of course.
and got to Australia.
Mostly from the UK, from
Ye-
the English people.
yes,
Yes,
yes. Then if you go to South Africa, the idea of white South Africans,
yes.
these are people that left the
Netherlands.
Netherlands, Germany, UK, and
Yeah,
moved over to Southern Africa.
yeah,
So if okay, that of North America is like a different story entirely.
yeah.
It
But it's
is
the same Japan. A lot of
yes,
people went to the New World in search of new opportunities
new
from
opportunities,
Europe. That's how America was created, both North and South.
South America.
Yeah,
So that means that the idea of Japa as if these new generations of Nigerians are the ones inventing the term, running away from the system. I also remember that in the 70s, even in the 60s, many young people left the country
yes,
to study abroad.
yes.
So, but there's a difference between what happened in the 60s and 70s of Nigeria and what is happening now.
Yeah, a big
Like I remember
difference.
people like Zeke left to study,
Exactly,
but when he was done, he had to come back.
exactly.
So many people left the country, but then they returned.
Yes,
But now I think the difference is that in our time, people are living not with the idea of just to study, but the idea of living.
yeah,
So now they think about how do I live? How do I vacate the continent? How do I leave the continent? So that's when the method of living comes in.
yeah.
So I agree with you on that point that Japa is something that
Has
continues to
always
be
been, yes, has always
as
been
long
part
as people live and interact.
It's a rational decision of human beings. It's
Yes.
a rational human decision
Mm.
to leave a place of discomfort to find greener pasture.
Mm.
It happens all the time. It's happened throughout human history, and it will always continue to happen.
To happen, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that the condition in Africa justifies it now.
Mm.
Like you rightly pointed out, in the 60s, there are people that were living for specific reasons.
Mm.
There were, for example, the white man that came to Africa came for expedition. They came for conquest. They came for colonialism.
Mm.
They came for exploitation. So that is a different objective. But what we are describing is people who just want to live and find a new life somewhere
life
else
entirely.
because at home,
There's no
the conditions are not
harsh.
good. Harsh, yes.
So yeah, and when I was reading the book I told you, it's about history of Britain actually.
Okay.
Then I discovered that
That's the title of the book, The History of
it's a
Britain.
history. No, it's not the title. I can't remember the title right
Okay.
now. But it's about the history of Britain.
Okay.
So I discovered that the same situation that we have today, which I call the push factors that are pushing Africans out, also pushed Britons and Europeans out of their own continent. when I discovered that mostly the people you find in Australia were Irish, and they didn't go there because they wanted to travel. They were forced out of their country, homeland.
Okay.
Now, back home today, we realize that the people that are leaving the continent, the country today, for instance, Nigeria, are people that are seeing the situation as they don't know how to survive.
Deal with it.
So the economic factor becomes the one key reason why people are leaving the Nigeria.
Yes.
Like when you think about, I'm done with my study, I cannot find job. So what should I do?
Yeah.
I'm actually working, but what am I paid? I can't even sustain myself with it. What comes to your mind is leave.
Yeah.
Leave. With my skill today, I can. Once you assume that with your skill today, you can survive better in another land. So the next thing that comes to young people's mind is, why am I staying? Even if it means selling my ancestors' land, let me sell it and move. So I think that economic factor becomes the key reason why
Yes.
people leave.
Yes.
Any other thing that people mention, yeah, I think poor governance is part of it. And how do you explain poor governance as the cause of Japa syndrome?
Yeah, poor governance results in bad economy. Poor governance creates poor economy. Bad governance means the government is not proactive, it's not progressive, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of instability in the process. So ultimately, the consequence of poor governance is usually bad economy.
Yeah.
Now that's what people begin to feel, that there are no opportunities, there's inflation, there's no future. And comparatively, they've heard about places where their things are better and they would like to live, And personally, I don't really have any discouragement for anybody that wants to leave, because you pointed out that there are two classes, you said, those who have something that they're holding on to.
Yes.
And then those who don't have any option.
Who cannot afford it.
Who cannot afford it, rather. So basically, and there's a very big segment of the population who certainly have no hope in Nigeria. They have nothing to fall back on. And so if they can find a way to live, they will like to live.
Yeah.
When we talk about this Japa thing, let's not forget that the most hit, as far as I am concerned, is probably people of the Southeast or the Igbos in general.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, Japa does not necessarily mean you have to be abroad. It means you are leaving your own area in search of better opportunities elsewhere. So the Igbos tend to have left the Southeast.
So you are saying that someone can japa from Enugu to Port Harcourt, or from Port Harcourt to Kaduna?
Yes. Port Harcourt may not really be the right word, because some people might consider that to be very close to the heartland of the Igbo land.
Okay.
Or some people even consider it to be part of the Igbo land.
Okay.
But what I mean is, when people now leave the entire Igbo territory, maybe they've gone to Lagos, because some people have said that the Igbos are the next highest population in any part of Nigeria, next to the indigenous people of that community. So, and some people say that anywhere you go and you don't see any Boman, you have to leave the place because something is going on. So Igbos have tended to leave the Southeast. And
is it a new thing?
It's not a new thing. It's been that way because there are, what's that word again for? Is it itinerary people that like to go out and explore other opportunities? That is certainly one. But it got worse after the war.
Okay.
Yeah, Igbos have been people that love to explore other areas. Okay. Not necessarily because there are no opportunities at home, but they have a large heart to explore other areas, and they can confront the challenges and go there and seek out opportunities, harness it and thrive. and eventually still come home. But what happened after the end of the war, which for all intents and purposes, they can be classified to have lost the war in real terms, is that there became a dearth of federal government investment in the Southeast, a dearth of infrastructure, therefore very limited opportunities in terms of federal presence and government presence generally, because in African countries, the government is the main drivers of the economy.
Yes.
So when the government neglects any place, the place tends to suffer. You find out in the Southeast, you won't find a lot of government institutions or investment like you will find in other places. So people now try to leave.
Yeah, I'm seeing this. This is a new way of looking at Japa for me.
Okay.
For me, a new way of, I would call it internal or international Japa.
Okay.
So we can come up with a new term called international Japa in a situation whereby either intentionally or unintentionally, government disenfranchises or creates hard economic situations in some sections of the country, forcing the people resident in that section to move to other sections of the country.
Yeah.
So there is also the possibility of mass exodus within a nation.
Yes, of course.
Intentionally or unintentionally inspired by policies.
Yes.
So, and from your point, it has become a way or something that happens in Southeast Nigeria.
Yes.
Whereby most people tend to, okay, there are no federal facilities around, so there are limited opportunities for me. So I need to go and seek opportunity somewhere else.
That's correct.
So you just came up with a new theory, which is international Japa.
Yeah, you are the one that named that one, so we'll give you that credit. And it's a very wonderful, powerful one. And
yes,
it makes a lot of
because
sense.
if we had balance, actually, Lagos would not be congested. People will not be crying about Abuja is starting to build up. Even within Southeast, we won't be saying that some cities are being congested.
Exactly.
So we need to decentralize facilities.
Yes.
We need to find a system whereby development gets to some corners so that someone living there does not need to say, for me to do well in life, I need to live here.
Yes. And unfortunately, it's as if the policies are even further entrenching that, because you don't still see a lot of federal presence coming down here.
Okay.
You know, so people, for example, the Southeast have asked for seaports, they've asked for all kind of rail systems, they've asked for the internationalization of their airports, which are sometimes just done in tokenisms, you know, maybe they will give you the name, but the policies will not let the international flyers want to come there and all of that. So ultimately, if you are an investor from the Southeast, for example, and you have a specific amount of money, you'll be asking yourself, what is my ROI if I invest it in the Southeast, or if I invest it in Lagos, or if I invest it in Kano? And that might, you know, because capital is looking for profit and you can't blame anybody. So ultimately, that's what is. And another factor that has been driving this thing, not just today, is also insecurity.
Insecurity,
insecurity. It didn't start today. You know, right from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, you will hear the times of Osisi Kanko, all those kind of guys, Deriko Mama, and all of that. You know, I just don't understand how they were able to hold communities and states in hostage throughout that period. And that expelled a lot of prominent entrepreneurs from the Southeast, those who had the capacities to invest massively. People now felt rich men. There were a few people that stayed back, but most others either left the country or left the Southeast and went over to other places to invest.
Yeah, I think, true.
And that insecurity is continuing today.
Yeah, security is continuing, but businesses are still existing.
Yes.
In the Southeast, people are still running their business. You know, one thing I have understood about media is this. Yes, something is going on, and we need to kind of push the government agencies to do their work, which is mostly about security agencies. They need to do their work. Most times you get confused that there are 4-5 military checkpoints, but kidnapping is going on.
Yeah.
Police is stopping you 5 times, but after a while you realize that someone was kidnapped along the way.
Yeah. It doesn't stop the
So
kidnapping.
that becomes a problem.
Yes.
But I think we need to create our time to dig deeper into this
Exactly.
aspect.
Yes.
We also need to create our time to dig deeper into the international Japa.
This is the one that even affects the Igbos more
Yes.
than any other community.
Yes. We need to bring out time, but today
Nigeria.
we want to look at the international one.
Yes.
So the idea that our young people are moving out.
Yes.
So some other time we are going to come here and talk about the one that is happening within the country.
Yes.
Because while we are crying about brain drain, other issues across nations.
Yes.
What about within nations? What is happening?
Yes.
So we are going to come back on that some other time.
Yeah.
So we also have the pull factors. You know, while we are talking about what are these factors within our system
Yes.
that is pushing people away.
Yes.
There are some factors within the other country
Yes.
that is pulling people in,
Yes.
asking them, come.
Yes.
Why our factors, those ones we mentioned here now, I say, go, leave.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not conducive for you. You won't be okay here.
Yeah.
Then there are something that these nations are putting down to ensure that the brightest of us is attracted to them.
Yeah.
Because no Nigerian would want to go to a system that is worse than the country that we are in already.
Mm-hmm.
So what are these things that they put in system? Because we've discovered the key places that Nigerians travel to or run to: UK, United States, Canada, and then other European countries. So what are these things that these countries put into place to ensure that whenever you think about leaving your country because your economy, your system is not okay, you think about them?
Yeah. Apart from, there are some of them have specific policies targeted at, immigrants to come. Some of these countries, they do have such opportunities. For example, in the field of healthcare, we heard many of them, they are looking for even more doctors to take care of, particularly the elderly population and other things. They like nurses and all that. Many of them are open to immigrants with technical skills in IT, for example, in other areas, maybe tiling, building, and all those kind of things, where there might be shortages of skilled labor in their own countries. So when you go to the embassies or whoever that is doing that, you see that their policies make provision for those skilled persons.
Specific skills,
yeah, specific skills. They do that. Most of them have that policy. And also some of them also, I don't know whether, yes, the people that go for education is a kind of Japa too.
Yes.
So they have good programs for people who come and study abroad.
Yeah.
They even come here to recruit. I've been to a program in Lagos where some universities came together from the UK, and then they created a body that was coming to hunt for students from Nigeria.
Yeah, I've participated in that. I've seen that also. But I wanted to ask myself a question. I was asking myself a question. Now, these people are coming around here to target young people, come over there and study. They are not forcing people, but they know there's something that their educational system offer whoever goes over there.
Yes.
That's why people are willing to spend up to 40 million naira.
Exactly.
To go do masters abroad in the UK. Someone would spend
a program that can cost less than 10% of that money here.
No. How much does it cost to do a masters in Nigeria?
Yeah.
With 2 million naira, you run the masters.
Yeah.
But then someone would spend 40 million to travel over there. What is this thing they put in their educational system? The pull factor. How do they market their educational systems that we don't? You know, when you mentioned health workers, I've discovered that large number of medical doctors in the US are actually from Nigeria.
That's what I heard too.
And trained in Nigeria, not just that they are from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And now, that their training in Nigeria is sufficient for them to start work over there. So which means that our health schools, medical schools in Nigeria are still good. So is it then the marketing that they use in dragging people over there, or the payment? I think it's about the salary.
Okay, yes, the salary is one factor. And of course, all the other, because anything that pushes you out, the reverse is the one that will pull you
Pull
there.
you in,
So
yeah.
if you are looking for stable infrastructure, electricity, the good life, less stressful life, you're looking for facilities, you might do all of that medicine, but you may not have all the facilities to work with the MRIs and all the tools that are necessary for diagnosis and all of that. Some of them that work there, I think the job is a lot easier. When
the facilities are available for you to do your work.
The hospital administration is perfect. The regulations and the oversight by the requisite government agencies, standards are there, procedures are there, and you can always improve and earn more and all of that. The structure of the system is a lot better. So people will want to leave.
I think I also come to see that what you mentioned earlier, good governance, comes back again. The reverse of having a bad governance that push people out is the good governance that creates a system that brings people in. And Achebe said it, the problem with Africa or Nigeria.
Chinua Achebe,
yeah. The problem with Nigeria is leadership. So if we have leaders that understand that, okay, these policies should work and retain people, because by the fact that someone is paying cheap for medical school means that the government has subsidized it.
Yes.
Subsidized it.
Yeah, subsidized it.
Yeah, it means that government has subsidized it.
Yes.
To the point that you don't need to pay as much as you would if you were in the UK or in the US or Canada or Germany.
Yeah.
You pay low.
Yeah.
Now, immediately the person completes their study, the next target is leaving the country.
Yeah,
now, the only benefit is that maybe remittance, when they start earning and they are sending their relatives money, that's the only benefit we have. But then, which morals do we have on telling the person you don't have to leave?
There's no moral. It's a free world.
It's a free world. But then, if there is a policy that subsidizes education, subsidize some things, there should be a policy that determines some things. Now, I'm not discouraging people from moving, but if government is taking action in funding some sectors, there should be decision on what happens after that. I'm saying this because I know and I read what happened when China was trying to get itself out of poverty. They sent out people to study different economies, and they gave them funding when they came back. If you went over there to study how to make clothes, when you come back, government will fund you. You start that facility. Then there was this documentary I saw where Chinese people in the US were hiding from Chinese government because they didn't want to go back. Probably they found a woman to marry or a man to marry, and they now don't want to return to pursue or start a business in the field that they came over to train. Now they were hiding from Chinese government because they have signed papers that once you are done with your study or training,
You're coming back.
You are going back. But then this set of people were trying not to go back. So I believe that if many are not going to be happy with this statement, but if the government can create a policy, our educational system is partly funded by the government. Now, if it's that way, should we leave instantly without contributing to the economy?
Well, the person has the right, as I insist, to leave if he chooses to. First of all, not everybody wants to go. There are still doctors here, nurses, health workers, and there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, still in Nigeria. And they are aware of the opportunities there, but they decide to stay. So it's part of being a human being, the right of movement to go to wherever you want to go to. And as you know, when they go, they also they learn more,
Yeah.
they get global exposure to things that may not have known if they were only in Nigeria. And then, of course, some of them become so comfortable, so prosperous that they can even invest. Some of them have built hospitals back in Nigeria.
In Nigeria. Yeah.
Yes. And then, we talk about diaspora remittances. Yeah. There was this year that diaspora remittance equaled or exceeded that of oil revenue for the country. There was one particular year it was like that. Yeah. I think the revenue, because of oil price, was low, around $18 billion. And then the remittance that year was about $20 to $22 billion. So the Nigerian economy is being powered partly by the foreign, that is diaspora remittances. We should recognize that.
So on that, then we should find a way to sponsor people as a nation or state. Yes, trained medical doctors, send them out. They have to invest. So they should work over there, but then they have to invest in the state. I think that's going to be a good investment.
I mean, but any system that compels anybody to do anything now is not.
It's not going.
I'm not going to support that. That's just what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that
the state, the government should not have hand in it.
No, the government should not have hand in it. You train your people. You make the conditions good enough for them to stay. It is up to the government to create policy that retain your people, not by compelling them to stay. You create the right conditions. Maybe pay. People are willing to earn half of what they would have earned abroad if they are living in Nigeria because of comparative other cost consideration. Yeah, because somebody that is earning a certain amount of money in Naira might still be more comfortable in Naira in Nigeria than somebody that's earning twice that in exchange value if you're living abroad because of the cost of living there
cost
too.
Of living, yeah.
So, but the thing is that when people now see there's a wide gap between what they are earning here and what they could earn, and it becomes so outrageous, then that is the incentive to leave. But if it is within a manageable distance, then nationalism kicks in, patriotism kicks in, and people want to stay back and see how they can contribute.
And Nigerians stay patriotic. That is true. I mean, ordinary Nigerian, we go out, we ask ourselves questions. Are you between patriotism and you considering this country today? Are you patriotic?
It may not be patriotism, but there are people that are at ease more living back in Nigeria. They are not so comfortable living in a land where everybody else is different in color, different in culture, different in attitude and all of that. They are prepared to go, spend a little time and come back, but not to stay there. There are people like that. They just don't like it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's an interesting aspect of it, and we are going to talk about truly, what is the impact of Japa syndrome, of young people moving. What's the impact on the country? What are we gaining? What are we losing?